A girl named Hayden emailed me. She was like, I have a spooky, scary story time about renting an Airbnb with my boyfriend last Christmas for a week, and it was the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. I'm so excited for this story. It's so good, but I'm excited because I'm in the Smoky Mountains right now, and I've been saving this story for this trip. So Hayden and her boyfriend decided they were going to go away for Christmas. They were going to get a mountain cabin for the week of Christmas because they couldn't decide on whose family to go to. They had like not been together that long, but also kind of together long. So it was just like easier if they just did the Christmas themselves and then dealt with it this year. So they booked this 1 week stay at a cabin. It has great reviews. Hayden reads the reviews before she books it. Great reviews, super host status. The only thing that a lot of the reviews said was that the driveway was super steep, so to make sure you had 4-wheel drive. So Hayden's like, no problem. Her boyfriend drove a truck, whatever. They book it. So when they're driving to the cabin the first day, they're like winding up these mountain roads, and they come across a black dog in the middle of the road. It's like a huge, like sheepdog looking dog. It's not matted, it looks well taken care of, and it's just stopped in the middle of the road and it's staring at them, and they can't pass because it's a narrow road. So they just wait. The dog runs into the woods. They're like, okay, weird, but whatever. There's not really any other houses as they pull up to this alone cabin. So they get there, they check it out. It's a nice place, super clean. Everything is in its place as photographed. So she's just like, being a little nosy, checking out the closets, seeing where the washer and dryer's at. And she tries this one door off the main hallway, off the living room, like leading back to the bedrooms. It was a 1-story house. So tries this door and it's locked, and she's like, okay, whatever. Like the host keeps probably like cleaning supplies in here. She doesn't think anything of it. They're just hanging out. Like they have a bottle of gin and they have a bottle of something else. I forgot what she said. Later that night, Hayden wakes up because she hears whispering, and she's like, hey, do you hear that? She wakes up her boyfriend, and he's like, yeah, who is that? And so they look out the window. They don't see anything, but they're just like, somebody is whispering. And so they go out to the living room, make sure the TV's off, everything's off. They get back in bed, whispering stops. Hayden woke up pretty early. She said there was a time change from where she lived, and so she was just up a little bit earlier than she was used to. The sun was coming up. It was like just rising, so pretty early. She's laying in bed for a little while, just like listening to the quiet, and she hears something rustling outside the window. So she's like, oh, there's an animal out there. So she wakes up, she like opens the blinds and like peeks out, and she can't see anything. So she's like, okay, weird, whatever. She goes out to the kitchen to make some coffee, and she sees that the gin bottle is empty. Her and her boyfriend had gone to bed at the same time, and she said that they had maybe like 4 drinks out of that bottle. So when he woke up later, she was like, oh, did you wake up last night and like, have some more drinks without me? Like just kind of playing around. She's like, you finished the bottle? And he was like, no, I didn't. And she was like, no, you did. And she said it really bothered her because she thought he was lying about being like a closet alcoholic or something. But later on, they're like downtown in like the cute little shop area, and he brings it up to her because she orders a drink at a bar that they're at. And he's like, hey, I think we should talk about your drinking. Like, I know that you finished that bottle of gin and you didn't want to tell me, and you like tried to make it seem like I did it, but like I know that you did it. And she was like, I didn't finish that bottle. But whatever, they're there. So they have a drink together, they have dinner, they go back to their Airbnb, and they were like not fighting, but she said like the energy was off. So that night, like pretty soon after they got back to the Airbnb, they go to bed pretty early because like they just didn't really want to hang out with each other. That night, she wakes up to a noise that sounds like a car door being slammed, and she looks next to her. Her boyfriend's there, so she's like, what is going on? So she looks out through the blinds, and she sees headlights in the driveway. So she wakes her boyfriend. She's like, somebody's here. And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, look outside the window. Like there's a car out there. And so he looks, and he's like, this is weird, because the cabin that they were renting was like not by any other cabin. So at first, her boyfriend's trying to convince her, like, okay, well, maybe it's just somebody that's like turned around on these mountain roads. Like they're trying to go back down. They're just trying to figure out where they are. And like a lot of people don't have service. So Hayden goes out to the living room to look out the living room window so she can like maybe get a plate or something in case anything happens. And she notices that now, in the time it took her to walk from the bedroom to the living room, they have flashed their brights on. So now like their whole living room is lit up with these brights. Side note for anyone who saw the video that I posted yesterday about being in the Smoky Mountains, this is the story that I was reading when those brights were behind me. That's why I freaked out. Anyway, floodlights coming through the living room window. Her boyfriend comes out. He's like, what is going on? He's like, I'm gonna call the cops. So he steps outside. He's like, hey, I'm gonna call the cops. Like, what are you doing out here? And he's telling Hayden like, hey, call the cops. So she calls, and as like he's yelling at this car, it like backs down the driveway and takes off. The last night Hayden was there, she woke up to someone whispering her name. And so she was like, oh, that was a really vivid dream. But then she wakes up and she hears them whisper Hayden again. And she jumps up, sits up in bed. She looks out the window, there's nobody there. So she like smacks her boyfriend. She's like, get up, somebody's here. They call the cops again because they're convinced like someone is on the property. Cops come, can't find anything. They take the report, and Hayden has had enough. She messages the host. The host was like super nice, refunded her the rest of the nights, the 4 nights that they didn't stay. And Hayden leaves, and she says like at this point, she's convinced that there was somebody else in that Airbnb. Now, she said it was a standalone property, but the only thing that she keeps thinking of is that locked room. She said she scoured the reviews. There was nothing else about hearing whispering or headlights or anything like that. She said she's curious to what you guys think because it's been a year, but she still said she thinks about it and she will never come back to the mountains. I feel like I've heard a story similar to this about like maybe a squatter or somebody staying in an Airbnb, but also like why would the host not have other reviews about this situation if that was the case, or if like she was renting the room? That's like my only question. I have 2 more mountain lore stories. They kind of deal with like spirits in the mountains, not so much like creepy Airbnb experiences. So I'll post those as I'm here as well. Keep sending me your spooky scary stories. I'll keep adding them to this playlist.